over the next couple of days, I want to introduce you, or maybe reintroduce you to a story of John the Baptist that we find in the Gospel of Matthew. Matthew introduces us to John in a pretty simple way. In those days, John the Baptist appeared in the desert of Judea, announcing, "Change your hearts and lives. Here comes the kingdom of heaven." If you know that story, you might have actually become a little bit numb to what John is saying. John is there baptizing people. Baptizing people so they could be cleansed of sin, so they could live in right relationship with God. People would come to John and John would baptize them, and eventually Jesus comes to John and John baptizes Jesus, and we have the Spirit descending. "This is my Son, whom I love, who I'm well pleased with," all of that. But here we get John proclaiming, "For the kingdom of heaven is coming." Now, when we think about the kingdom of heaven, usually we think about heaven. We think about what it's going to be like when we get there. We think about the pearly gates, the floating fluffy clouds. We think about all of that. But here, John is proclaiming that the kingdom of heaven is coming to us. It is coming in a very real way. Now, as we look back on that, we realize that Jesus was, in a very real, incarnated way, the kingdom of heaven come to earth. Jesus came that we might understand more about God's kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. So why is it important that we read this? If we already know who Jesus was, hindsight, why is it important that we read this? Is it just so we can hear John say it, so we can make some pretty cool songs and anthems out of it? No, it's more than that. I want to focus on the fact that it's John who's saying it. Now, we have learned to love John. We have learned to love to revere John. But that wasn't always the case. John was, how do you say it? John was a weird dude. John was known for living in the wilderness, in ragged, torn clothes. He wasn't a homebody. John wasn't the guy you would invite to dinner because he might bring the thing that he liked to eat the most, locusts. John was a weird dude. And out there in the wilderness, it's there that he is proclaiming, "Here comes the kingdom of heaven." I love the people that God chooses to do God's work. Because God chooses the weird dudes. God chooses weird you and weird me. God chooses us, and we're just not the cool bunch. We're just not the people you would expect to proclaim the presence of God's kingdom on earth as in heaven. And yet here we have John, still picking locusts out of his teeth from lunch, proclaiming, "The kingdom of heaven draws near." Maybe it's a reminder to us that we discover God in places we might not expect. We can hear the gospel from those we might not expect to hear it from. Maybe it's sitting down at one of our community dinners with someone you don't know, and in a conversation you discover that the whole time you've been eating with Jesus. Maybe it's as you share a blessing bag or a buck on the side of the road with someone who's asking for some help. Maybe in just a moment of happiness, they share with you John's reminder, the kingdom of heaven is coming. Are we open to hearing the gospel of Jesus Christ from those who we would not expect to share it? Amen.